Hi there, I am Stacy Phillips, and I am so excited to kick off season 1 of my podcast, Stacy Phillips and Friends, or as we like to say, keeping it real with non-housewives. No slight to real housewives. We really love you. Everybody needs a housewife in their life. Each week, we will step into my wardrobe, literally one of my closets, where one of my nearest and dearest friends and confidants will fill this chair next to me as my co-host to chat a little bit about life and a lot about women empowering women. Together, we will have a gap session with just us gal pals, a deep dive for the dish, a convo among co-eds, and then our big feature presentation, the special guest interview, or what I call the SGI. But first, move over, Andy Cohen, with your mazel of the day, because at Stacy Phillips and Friends, we will bump it up a notch or 3 as we Kibbitz, Kvetch, and Kvell, the best 5 minutes of commenting, complaining, and crowing. And because I am a divorce attorney, my producer, George, will drop in to spend a few minutes of each show talking about a high-profile relationship in the news. So welcome to Stacy Phillips and Friends. Let's keep it real. Hi again, I'm Stacy, and welcome to Stacy Phillips and Friends. And as we like to say, keeping it real with non-housewives. We all need a housewife in our lives. My co-host today, and my dear friend, and somebody who I respect so tremendously, is Dr. Tiffany Grunwald. Tiffany is a world-renowned board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon who has been helping patients achieve their desired aesthetic since opening her Santa Monica private practice in 2007. She has worked extensively with breast cancer survivors to restore their natural breast shape following a mastectomy. She was drawn to plastic surgery because of the close relationship that develops between doctor and patient, and her role in analyzing and solving problems that directly impact individuals. Dr. Grunwald was an honor surgeon at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and USC's Keck School of Medicine, where she was awarded tops in her class. In addition to her private practice, she is also the division chief of plastic and reconstructive surgery at Providence St. John's Health Center. It's truly a remarkable career done backwards. So welcome to my closet.
Stacy's right. I started medical school at the age of 28, which is much later than the 22 that it should be. But, you know, I took some diversions. I think I changed my major 8 times. I dropped out in the middle of my sophomore year and really waited until something spoke to me, and it was medicine.
And there you did, 16 years of it?
So 4 years of medical school, 5 years of general surgery, 2 years of a master's in medical education, and then 3 years of plastic surgery fellowship.
I mean, and as a reconstructive breast surgeon, I mean, it doesn't get any more special than that and important than that.
It's an amazing, amazing profession. I feel blessed every day.
And your patients are blessed every day.
Oh, thank you. It's such a special place, and it's such an intimate moment with someone when you're going to operate on them, and the trust that they have to put in you.
Especially when they've been through cancer.
Yeah.
Or going through cancer. You know, it's one thing to make a choice to augment your breasts. It's another thing to have to reconstruct your breasts because they were removed.
Yes. And to make that journey and feel like a deer in the headlights when they first get the cancer diagnosis, but then to watch their journey as they really embrace it and become empowered from having survived all of that. It's a blessing.
They're a badass.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
My producer is telling me it's time to Kibbitz, Kvetch, and Kvell. Kibbitz is to chat, as you know, to talk. Kvetch is to complain, which I could do without today. And Kvell is to bust your buttons, as my dad would say. So pick one, and what do you want to Kibbitz or Kvetch or Kvell?
I'm definitely not much of a Kvetcher, so I'll do a little Kibbitz, because we were talking about it earlier with gosh, I wish I remembered how long ago this was. It's probably 8 years ago when Botched was first coming on, which is everyone's favorite plastic surgery thing. But I had some of my mentors who had done The Swan. There were some of those very early shows. And, to do a show like that, first of all, I really didn't want to do it. I'm not a public persona at all. And I said no and no, but my office got so worked up about it and they were so excited. So I said I would meet with a producer, and the premise of I'm probably the only plastic surgeon in the United States who does not have before and after pictures up on their website, because I feel like it's I'm the guardian of a lot of personal things about this patient, and I just don't want them out there in the ethos. And so this is a logarithmically expanded form of that. But anyway, I went through this meeting, finally had the producer in, and about half an hour in, she said to me, so when somebody comes in and they show you their breast, I want you to say like, oh my gosh, who did that to you? And then I knew it was just not for me.
Oh, God. Yes, that's what reality TV is.
That is what reality TV is.
No part of that.
I'm the non-housewife.
God bless. Do I hear the sound of crying or is it laughter? Well, better turn up the sound. There's Georgie, because it's time for our relationship roundup. Who are we going to chat about today? I hope it's something good, not a divorce. I do that for a living. I don't need any more of that.
Oh, this one's not a divorce. It's good.
It's positive vibes.
Okay, so who are we talking about, George?
My favorite, my queen, my love, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
I thought Madonna was your queen.
She's my other queen.
2 decades ago.
You're one of my queens as well, Stacy. You're up there.
Oh.
I can have several queens.
Okay, I'll share.
Madonna and Taylor Swift, good company. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, they've just been dating. They've been living life. They've been photographed together many times, but recently they were seen holding hands after her third Eras show, after her third show in Amsterdam. So after that third show, they left together holding hands. Obviously, that made headline news. It's very exciting. People are wondering when they're going to have a baby, if they're going to have a baby. That's just always the biggest question with these celebrity
How about
couples.
getting married first? Let's do it the old-fashioned way.
So
Well,
do
how
you
long have they
think?
been together?
So they've been together. There's different like timelines, but people say I think it's been almost a year actually, or like 9 months now.
Well, we know they were dating sometime before the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
Which was 5 months ago. Mm.
February?
Yes,
So
February.
you think the baby watch is more important than the wedding watch?
People are more excited about the baby than they're even talking about the wedding.
I still believe that you should do it the old-fashioned way and get married first. I know celebrities
Okay.
sometimes do it out of order or don't choose to get married. I'm a believer in tradition, and given what I do for a living, there are
That's impressive.
ramifications.
Stacey, you think she'll have a prenup, right?
I would think they both have a prenup.
Yeah.
So explain to me, because I'm not like super intelligent on that kind of end of things.
Mhm.
What does it mean when they both have prenups?
I'm a big believer in prenups for people who come to a marriage with their own substantial wealth, either from their own efforts or from their families. But if you have two young people who don't have anything and somebody wants a prenup, I tell the other person run because they don't want to share.
Yeah.
But if you've been married before, you're independently wealthy from your family, or like Taylor or Travis, or you've made your own money, let's just make it simple. And that's sort of a laughable word, but make it simpler and agree on it and have a document. So God forbid you split up. It's not all over the front page news.
Right. And it's almost like people are kind of just waiting for that to happen with these celebrities, It's like they want the
Yes, yeah.
wedding and then they want the divorce too.
Because
It's just, what's that?
people are voyeurs. They want to get into the private life and stir it up with the celebrities.
Especially with Taylor Swift, who has like so many obsessed fans, and like the media is obsessed with her too. It's just kind of wild to see that her net worth is $1.3 billion and his net worth is some measly 30 million, which is just like crazy.
But that's what the media says. And don't believe what the media says, because
Okay.
I have read things about my own clients that the media says, and I know it's wrong. But we
See?
can assume that hers is quite substantial and his is extremely substantial, but less.
Yep.
We could just make that assumption.
compared to hers.
Yes.
Because
But
30 million,
very
let's say-
substantial.
It's all relative.
Yes.
it's all relative. Yeah. I'd take 30 million.
Yes, you take the interest income off the 30 million.
I would take 3,000. Hey.
So we will take a quick break to reset our chairs to welcome our first guest in our closet. So that's the sound that it's time for our special guest interview, the SGI. That's a favorite part of my show. And this week we are very excited to spend some time with Dr. Kayte Susse. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And obviously this is Dr. Tiffany Grunwald.
No,
and
so
I'm
happy to meet you.
And I'm sitting in between two people who probably have strong feelings on a certain subject. So this is going to be interesting. Dr. Kayte is, I prefer to call you Dr. Kayte, is a chiropractor, television host, and supplement startup founder in LA, where both Dr. Tiffany and I are based. Her research is focused on recovery from chronic illness, breast implant safety, medical device safety advocacy, and more. Kayte founded Dr. Kayte's Formulas after suffering from chronic mystery illness, which greatly improved after her breast implants were removed. And she's doing this in an effort to help those manage their own silicone concerns so they don't have to deal with what she had to deal with, start getting ahead of it. Her flagship formula, Silicone Implant Support, is designed to provide solutions to people who want to live healthy with silicone implants. She's also interviewed dozens of leading medical experts for Focus TV Network, EverTalk Television Network, and Amazon Live Story TV. She was an All-American high school and collegiate wrestler.
Oh,
Love that.
Which is
fun.
That is really cool.
I think that's so
really
cool. I saw the pictures.
But began suffering from systemic health issues that led her to chiropractic school and inspiring her to help others. God bless. So welcome to my closet.
Here, let's
Literally, you see my clothes. So with all the things that I just talked about, did I miss anything?
No,
Anything you
that
want to
was-
highlight?
That was beautiful. I guess just that now I'm working in an educational seminar company called Biohack Your Beauty, which is a second company I founded, which is aimed to bring together allopathic aesthetics, which is plastic surgeons, and also pharmaceutical companies that make Botox and filler, everything that people want to know about. And then we also bring integrative and holistic doctors, biohackers, and mind, body, spirituality experts. And we bring them all together to learn about what is beauty.
And beauty also comes from within,
That's why the mind, body, spirituality component.
which is a
Holistic
big thing.
approach, yes.
Yes. Mind, body, spirit is your line.
I kind of want to know what the definition or like a biohacker. I love
Yeah.
the word.
Yeah.
It's such a great word, but I don't know really like what that encompasses.
It's also interesting because it's a word that's come under fire. I learned recently when I just came back from Helsinki, I was at a biohacking summit, and some of the people from Europe were telling me how in Europe it's a charged negative word because it's like the allopathic side. They always want to talk about proven safety approaches, right? Like that's the whole reason we do these trials. And biohacking encourages do-it-yourself biology, which is taking health into your own hands and experimenting. So that
interesting.
can be a conflict, but it can also be as simple as I'm doing sauna, I'm doing cold plunge, I'm tracking
We
my
all
heart
had a
rate.
biohack, right?
We all do to
Or I'm
some
cutting out
extent.
cheese for a week.
And then beauty biohacking, which is a term like I'm, trying to pioneer. Other people have used it, but we're talking about utilizing biohacking for beauty and longevity specifically.
Awesome. Thank
What's
you for
the
that.
difference between allopathic and homeopathic?
Do you want to take that one, doctor? No, okay.
I mean, so homeopathic is a different one.
Completely.
It's mostly like osteopathic and allopathic medicine. It's a little Eastern, Western. There's all kinds of different definitions around it, but allopathic is kind of what we think of as Western medicine. And what Dr. Seuss was referring to is evidence-based, right? Like we do studies, sometimes we wait 20 years before we get results on things. And then the osteopathic is a more holistic, natural approach. And just like in Eastern and Western medicine, like we're really learning to blend these. And what we're finding
Which
is
is really
that
important.
Which
you
is
need
integrative medicine.
to. It's integrative medicine.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And it is one of the most important frontiers of all of medicine, but definitely women's health.
Yeah, and then if you look at the last century, there was a lot of drama between these groups where they really tried to completely eliminate the other, especially the AMA. So coming from a holistic background, even as a chiropractor, I know what happened like around the turn of the century. So people don't know that a lot of their connotations actually stem from these very old things that happened 100 years ago that really have nothing to do with what's going on now. And I think on the internet, the consumer is already blending all of it. So it's kind of hard to keep it in a box now.
Well, even with my dog, his doctor, he has 3 doctors, but his eye doctor blends Eastern and Western medicine. And the medicine I give him, it's both. Like he has.
Even dogs deserve holistic care.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in that. I mean, it goes back to our holistic approach,
It does.
organic approach, mind, body, spirit. I think that's
They all
really
have to be
important.
addressed.
Yes, you can't just, as you said, it said to me, just replace the breast after cancer and think everything is going to be hunky-dory. You got to deal with the whole person and all the psychology and the emotions that go with surviving
Absolutely.
cancer.
Yeah, it's super important, like in the explant community, which is I've spent a lot of time in that space, and cancer survivors come through a lot, and it's a big concern. You know, once they don't want breast implants because of the risks of silicone, and they have to remove completely for cancer. You know, a lot of people ask me, what do I do if I don't put implants? It's a really hard question to answer for me.
There's a lot of great options besides implants, right? I mean, there are definitely using your own tissue, putting your own fat in there. You can borrow a muscle from somewhere. So there's
Take it
definitely
from
other
your
options.
stomach.
And take it from the tummy.
All of a sudden, you have a flat stomach. God bless.
Is that what I would ask? Is it typical to do those surgeries together, or do you typically have to separate them when they do the cancer? When you do the
Oh,
cancer?
no, we do it at the same time.
You do them the same.
Well, so I should say, I live in Los Angeles and I'm blessed to work with some great surgeons who we move things around. But in 60% of the country, you can't get immediate breast reconstruction because it's just, it's complicated to get everyone's schedules together. But in most of the metropolitan centers in the US, we definitely do immediate breast reconstruction. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you're a wrestler.
I guess
Is that sort of a showstopper? What if somebody meets you? It was for me.
It's so awesome.
It's the type of thing that doesn't come up in conversation really anymore, but sometimes it gets pulled out, and yes, we can talk about it. But it was a big part of my life for 9-10 years.
In that picture, you were the only girl on the team.
I was the only girl on my high school team. And then, I'm in
I love
college. I was, actually in high school, I became captain of the JV boys team, which was pretty fun when we went to tournaments. So had a lot of weird looks from people. But yeah, I was really good at wrestling. It really forged I think it helped, teach me lessons I needed to learn around trauma and growing up. And
one of my closest male friends in college wrestled in high school, and he would tell me stories about trying to drop weight so he soak himself in a tub.
Yeah, I think so. Looking at the whole journey and where I am now with beauty biohacking, which is really about like the somatic, the feeling the body and what that means for your true self authentically. And I look back on who I was as a wrestler, because this is really my personal journey of trying to be embodied fully, which I wasn't. You know, it was almost like I was born with my soul and spirit like outside of my body, and my whole life has been trying to pull it down into my body. And that's what we talk about through beauty biohacking, through surgery, augmentation, all these various forms, is about finding a vehicle for self-expansion. That's like ultimately what Biohack Your Beauty is. And I think with wrestling, I was still trying to find those things. Like I was in my tissue fighting, trying to feel my body and myself. Does that make sense? It's kind of deep.
Yeah. Probably gives you a lot of body confidence doing that. The wrestling.
No, it didn't. It didn't. It just gave me a lot of awareness, or at least a start of a path to awareness, which I'm still on. And I've gone through a lot. Yeah, we are. We all are. And some people, and it's interesting because in Finland, where I just was, and I was trying to talk to them about what beauty biohacking is, and a lot of them were looking at me like I had two heads, because in their and I had to think about this a lot. Why is their culture so much more embodied than our culture in the West? And I think it has a lot to do with their climate and survival, and just like the need to use their body to physically, further the species in this extreme environment, right? So they have to be embodied. So their neural integration is so much more advanced than ours, but I found some of them to be less cerebral. Like we're more cerebral.
What do you mean by embodied in the way you're using it?
What I mean is we have this amazing brain that is this neural network to every part of us. And then I believe we have, outside of our tissue, we have an energetic field, a quantum field around us. And I believe that the nerves, to the extent that you could look at this in PT, right? If you get an injury and you can't move that, you got to go and get the brain back into that part of the body, right? And even in fitness, like if you want to grow a muscle group like your glute, you might smack your butt before you start doing squats because you're trying to program the neural integration. So we're talking about, when we think about plastic surgery, we're thinking about parts of our body that maybe we have chronic patterns of insecurity where we've downregulated nerve innervation over time, like we don't like that area, so we start to shut ourselves off from it. And then what are the physiological effects of shutting it off? Like, does it get less nerve? I know she's probably going to push back on this. Does it get a little less love and a little less of our nutrients, right? And then how do we reintegrate it by applying a pain point, whether it's a surgery or a laser or some other modality?
Are you going to push back?
I mean, the chronic insecurity part I think is tough, but I do agree that in the great majority of plastic surgery, especially in our culture, that is what it's addressing. And it is driven by social media and by television. I think most people are not aware of what the fundamentals of plastic surgery is, which is really, I do mostly breast surgery, and I fix breasts that are damaged by trauma, cancer, congenital deformity, sometimes just gravity, or reducing so that it helps the health of the patient.
Absolutely.
And so it's interesting when we say plastic surgery addresses chronic insecurity. I don't think that's a fair statement.
I would ask a question. Just curious, do you feel like in your practice with the breasts over these years, you have been addressing issues of the heart, like of the heart chakra, in the sense of their emotions and feelings associated with this center that are coming through, and the cancer and the trauma and the things you just described? Is that possible?
It's an interesting question, and I'm not sure that I'm smart enough to be able to comment on chakras. I kind of know what they are.
I hate that word.
I don't really understand them, but I do.
The energy
But
center of the heart.
but I also think, and Stacy and I have talked about this, that you can do a beautiful, exquisite surgery on someone and build a beautiful breast, but that does not cure their heart or make them feel strong or beautiful. You can't just do it with a surgery, and you can't do it with a pill. And so in that sense, I would say I absolutely address the heart of my patients. And this morning I was on a bike ride, and I have a breast cancer survivor group, and I get all of them out, and we walk and hike and commune. And I think it's a really important part of what you do. Like, I change someone's anatomy.
No, but you're
responsible.
You're talking about building a community, which is directly from the heart. And I think it's very interesting that you're working in the tissue and you see it very like a scientist, very somatic. I would argue, which is
But
great.
bigger.
And
There's bigger
no,
stuff.
but we need that. We need that. But I would, if I was working with someone, I don't do this, but if I had a sister or a friend, or if it was myself and I knew I was undergoing this, and I wish I had known when I removed mine. I didn't know about any of this. But if I had, I would have gone back and I would have tried to incorporate, like, thinking about my heart and what it needed and what kind of, because they're sharing a ganglion, right? I mean, the nerve innervation to this region is sharing a nervous system ganglion, right? So there's synaptic things, there's traumas, it's all wired together. So when you enter through one peripheral point, it's an opportunity to biohack that pathway from reverse. That's what I would argue.
So what is, so tell me, no, it's
kind of takes us
already. I mean, like, I definitely think about when a patient wants surgery, like, are they physically, mentally, emotionally in a good space? And if they're not, like, I will say, go to a nutritionist, let's get a trainer, or let's go to therapy. But who would be the person that you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know that it has to come from outside of themselves. I think it's a conversation and an intention, and it's more just like we're opening up an awareness, because ultimately I believe, this is my feeling, is that they have to work with the creator to kind of tap into this side of it. And any pain that we go through and any struggle is going to be a vehicle for transformation on the third dimension, the physical level and the tissue, and then outward, right?
Yeah.
Insofar as your belief system allows. So,
but some people don't know how to do that without help, which is why you send them to a nutritionist, a psychologist. And
I think all of those things are valid and useful. I also
or acupuncture, mindfulness,
of course,
all of these things.
It's super useful if you can afford that team, because you can get knowledge and information from all of those people, and you never know. Like, I believe maybe the creator can speak through those people, and you learn and collaborate. But I don't want to minimize the extreme opportunity we have to do it like ourselves, like just to empower ourselves to try to start having that conversation, like internally, and just see what happens.
So what started you? Obviously, it was very personal when you had a physical reaction or a leakage from your silicone implants.
Yeah.
What started you on this journey?
Yeah, so I got breast implants kind of on a fluke. I think I was bored. I was working in fashion. I have a bachelor's degree in art. I was just, looking for things to do to get energy, to find
That's an expensive thing to do.
I have a friend. It was a thing. It was a surgeon. It was our friend. I got a discount. So it all happened very easily. And no, they were great. There was nothing wrong with the surgery. He was a great doctor, is a great doctor. And within a year, I started having systemic health problems and I had no idea why. So I started searching and looking, and no one could tell me what was wrong with me. I had a lot of muscle and joint pain. And I was not able to recover from workouts like overnight. So wrestling and my background helped me navigate that, because a lot of people just told me I was overtraining and that it was in my head and maybe I just needed to slow down. But I knew that was not true. So I thought, okay, well, I'm having pain in my muscles and joints. How do I learn more about that? I researched medical grad programs, and chiropractic made a lot of sense given my symptoms. And then when I got to chiropractic school, none of the interventions helped me. Acupuncture, none of them. Adjustments, figuring out the muscle patterns, correcting the spine, no. And then there was this small group of people talking about metabolic causes of pain, and they were doing seminars, and they were like, well, if you want to come learn about how there's metabolic causes of like fibromyalgia and these things. And that was what led me to eventually figure out. It took time. Yeah. Like yours.
And then you went to a doctor who agreed with you, or just said, okay, I'll remove them, and then you felt better?
No, I thought about silicone at some point as I was learning about toxic exposures. And I thought silicone was made out of sand. It was like really naive of the profile of what it is. I didn't know about the history of what happened in the 90s. I don't know if you know, I'm sure probably you do, but there was a lot of things that
I
happened.
lived through it. Not personally, but yeah.
Well, there was a big class action lawsuit, and there was a explicit breaking apart of the implant. So they were obviously moving. The device wasn't performing as intended. So it's kind of easy to pull them. And there were a lot of women that were sick then. I mean, there's reports of pain syndrome, scleroderma, autoimmune diseases. And I even know a lawyer who was on that case for the plaintiff. I spoke with him extensively, and he said, no one really wanted to prove illness. We didn't want to go there. We just wanted to prove the device wasn't working as intended. So I believe, and this is just my opinion, I don't know, I can't state it as a fact, that the reformulation involved a lot of more attention to cohesiveness. So when they were put back on the market, I believe more chemicals were added to make them more cohesive, and they don't break anymore. But it's a problem if your body doesn't form a nice capsule of collagen, or if there's some sort of collagen derangement, which sometimes manifests as capsular contracture, or it could be too thin of a capsule. In my case, I had paper thin capsules with barely any scar tissue protecting my body from the implant, and then my implants were very sticky, which indicates that there was phagocytation by white blood cells of the silicone chronically over the time I had the implants, right? Because I had had previous liposuction in my youth, another friend surgeon, systemic, like my full abdomen, arms, and it was the old lipo. It was less, there was more scar tissue formed from it. And so a lot of microsilicone was getting mobilized into lymphatic regions that was compressed by scar tissue, which makes it harder to leave. Plus, white blood cells don't have any enzymatic machinery to break down silicone. So it's just when the white blood cell dies, silicone is deposited, and it becomes a big detox pathway challenge. So what I learned, and all the surgeons that I talked to back then said, oh, you're so healthy. That's why you have no capsule. I was like, that doesn't make any sense, right? So anyways, I was researching more and more and more and more, and starting to understand the root causes of collagen derangement by chronic infection, toxicity, and various other things, and how important the health of the patient is in developing a nice, even, balanced scar tissue capsule. And that's really that's the factor in whether or not people get sick from implants or not, unless there's an autoimmune component, which is another story. Sorry, it was long.
So I have a question. I don't know if it's for both of you. So some people may have their body react poorly to the silicone. I'll call it allergic reaction. Some, it used to leak. But beyond that, I thought that silicone implants were safe for those who don't have a physical reaction or leakage.
I mean, so silicone and titanium are the two most inert substances, and that's why we use a combination of them or both of them. Titanium's bad in breast implants, so mostly they're silicone. But the body forms a capsule around anything that goes into it. And that capsule is meant to be thin and filmy, like what Kay was talking about, like that layer in a hard-boiled egg between the egg and the shell. And it walls off anything that's not part of it. The leakage part is all, and those were the implants before 2007 that were liquid silicone. So it wasn't really that the implant moved, it's that the implant would break. They're not lifetime devices. Most, even heart valves need to be changed every 10 to 15 years. So, when they break, your body sees new silicone and it wraps it up. And really, it turns out that was the first cohort of women entering their 40s, 50s, and 60s when we develop things like autoimmune disease, scleroderma, lupus. There is a slightly increased risk if you have a predisposition to autoimmune diseases, and that looks like there might be some mitochondrial genetic factors that might predispose you also to some of this breast implant illness. We just don't know, but we're doing a lot of studies on it, and I think all of the exposure that everyone brings out is really good. It's the medical community, needs to look at it, and it is about educating people. And 20-year-olds shouldn't be getting breast implants. And they're not smart enough to make. Not you. I just mean in general. They're not smart enough to make that decision.
But legally, they're allowed, and they do anyways, another story of the psychology behind my reaugment. To close out, and I'm not prepared to do a data, debate. I just want to mention that in more recent data, what the big takeaway we can see is that when silicone leaves the capsule, problems happen. We don't like silicone to be outside the capsule, and silicone does have a toxic profile, but it's debated, does it affect you or not? And I would argue there's bio-individual factors. It's going to affect some people more than others.
Yeah.
But for sure, we know silicone, the composition includes heavy metals, toxic chemicals, and so forth. Things that we drink out of a plastic bottle that we don't want it to be have BPA, but
correct. We have it in everything else too.
So we're trying. Yes, of course. So the bio-individual factors. Anyways, the formula I made, it accounts for a lot of these things. It helps to balance the collagen pathway. I did that in a really unique way by stabilizing the histamine pathway. So that really helps in this particular type of patient who might be drained in collagen because of excess histamine, chronic, low grade. So when they take it, it can also help with systemic skin. It can tighten a little if it's a problem they're having. I've had people report that they look tighter systemically. We're also supporting the immune system. We're balancing it in the, not to prevent autoimmunity, but we know in autoimmunity, there's certain substrates required to support the T regulatory cells, which are the immune cells that decide if they are going to make antibodies against your tissue. And then I also put ingredients that help to remove a foreign estrogen from the body and support the liver a little bit. So that's what the formula does.
That's awesome. Is it over the counter, or do you need a doctor prescription?
It's a vitamin. It's a supplement.
It's just a vitamin.
Yeah. So
Very
I'm selling
cool.
it online.
Yeah.
There's some med spas and surgeons now, but not too much wholesale, but I would like to eventually.
So when you do reconstructive surgery, do you give your patients a choice between silicone and, was it saline?
Silicone and saline, although what the body sees, whether it's silicone or saline, is still a silicone shell. The body sees the exact same thing. But I give them an option between that or nothing, and just kind of moving the tissues around to make it look as acceptable as possible, or using tissue from somewhere else in their body to build the breast.
And if you were to do an empirical study of your practice over the many years, what ratio, what numbers?
So it's probably, I think in the country right now, it's about 80% implant reconstruction and about 15% flap reconstruction, meaning tissue from somewhere else in your body, and 5% is nothing. And then in Los Angeles, it's probably about 90% implant reconstruction.
And is that what you experienced too?
I think so. It's, look, nothing is perfect and no one wants to have surgery. And you can either have tissue taken from somewhere else in another scar area, or you can have just the same incision that's used for your mastectomy or your lumpectomy. Or sometimes we can just do the lumpectomy and move the tissue around and they don't need any other tissue. It's a very, it's a conversation about what all the options are, right? And so the patient has to be able to understand those, and I have to know them well enough to be able to lead them into what I think is most consistent with their lifestyle and their beliefs. And, if they have autoimmune history in the family, like those are definitely things that you bring up, right? Because they're more predisposed to what you're talking about.
I love that. And a lot of surgeons do start to get in, like, it requires extra work for them to understand and revisit internal medicine. But there are ways you can see a patient before you put implants and say, I don't think you're a good candidate. It's against my recommendation. But of course there's always financial interest. So you have to have, good practice to be able to turn people away that want an expensive surgery. So I've seen it though. So a lot of them are.
What's the youngest breast cancer survivor patient you have done reconstruction on?
I think 28.
Wow.
Which is really young for breast cancer, but yeah, I think that's the
I thought it
youngest.
might have been much younger. So
No, it's sometimes there's younger if they have the genetic predisposition and a really big family history. But generally speaking, no, the breasts behave pretty well until
they don't.
until 30, 35.
Until they don't.
Well, the interesting part is, we all make breast cancer. It's just that our body is capable of cleaning it up. So some of these genetic mutations like the BRCA, those people just don't have the cleaner cells.
Yeah.
So it's not that we all make breast cancer and we all make cancer in other parts of our body, but this is why you keep your body healthy and all the things that you're talking about and your immune system and mentally and physically and emotionally and stress. Like stress is a horrible thing so that you can fight, there's typos and everything. Nobody's written a text that doesn't have a typo. And that's what the body does.
And like when you start talking about the epigenetic switches on BRCA or different mutations, like one of the things I've identified is the importance of glutathione. So that's why the formula has all the substrates, because I find that glutathione is really cleans up all the cells. I found out later I have a mutation on the enzyme that does the conversion of glutathione into its active form. So
how do you test for that?
It's in all of the, when you do your genome, it comes up. It's called GST1. Yeah, that's the main one.
You have to look really hard.
You have to know what to look for. I didn't even know when I first started looking. Yeah. So once I started using the substrates for glutathione and helping get into the cell the raise the levels, my body started performing like it did when I was a lot younger. So it's pretty cool.
I have so many patients who got implants 20 and 30 years ago, and they knew nothing.
No, of course.
They didn't know they needed to be changed. They didn't know anything.
Do you know how many women they're
It's remarkable to me always.
Because I'm in this community with like over 100,000 women that have all explanted or one explant, and like the anger and like the frustration and the pain that they go through, and they post about it. So you read their stories and you see like they just say over and over, like, if I had just known, like, why didn't anyone tell me? Like, and then this is another conversation because in complex chronic illness, there's like always a tipping point event. And so people
and everything's so multifactorial.
Yes, I know. And we know that. We know that.
Everybody's in those hormone shit.
We know that.
I mean, there's just so much going on with the body.
But people don't know that. And they think if I just hadn't gotten the implants or if I just hadn't had that one Botox, and they get so focused on it. Yeah. So it's important from a regulatory standpoint that we need to say, by the way, this could happen. And just like, by the way, did you know if you have surgery, you could die if you go under anesthesia? Like, did you know?
Yep, I've signed things. We've all signed it. So
it is important. It's an important communication to have. And we can all agree relationships only work with communication. So, that can be a monkey wrench in the whole thing.
Like patient education is so important and like shared decision making and making sure that you know all of the options.
And then do it if you still want. The things I've seen, I can't even make this up. And this is why I do Biohack Your Beauty now, because I can't even believe what I see. But like a girl I went to chiropractic school with who was very sick when she was in school. I was very sick. She saw everything I went through. She knew my whole journey. And then a couple years after chiropractic school, she called me and was like, I'm going to get breast implants. And I was like, what? Are you serious? No, I don't recommend that. Because especially knowing her history. No, I really want them. I'm going to take your formula. And I was like, all right, there's nothing I can say to change her mind. So what do? I have to just support her in her decision. This is her life, right?
So what happened?
She got them, and I don't know, we don't talk that much, so I don't know.
I have never regretted putting braces on my teeth.
Because they were really bad. And your beautiful teeth. So, Kate, we asked each of our guests, if you weren't doing what you are doing today, what would you be doing? What is another career option for you?
Yeah, well, I really wanted to be a lawyer. That was actually that was my first dream. And I'm a Libra, and I used to do volunteer court all of my childhood. But I got discouraged along the way. People started telling me, "Oh, it's all paperwork. It's not what you think. You're not going to be in the courtroom." And
That's not true.
But that's what I was told. So I gave up and I went another way.
So I'd like to thank our special guest, Dr. Kayte Susse, and my co-host, Dr. Tiffany Grunwald. I love being around people who are a field that I so find so fascinating but it's so different from what I do, although it's not, since we do treat the human person.
Yes, I love that. I love having.
As a
some of
divorce
that,
lawyer,
yeah.
that's the way I look at it. I am treating my female clients.
You have to. If you just treat their divorce, you haven't done a service, right?
And some people look at me and say, "What are you doing?"
Why are you asking me these questions?
Yeah, or opposing counsel, like, "What are you doing?" Like, I see it as my job is
It is.
treating my
That's
clients
amazing.
holistically. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, both of you. Thank you for those tuning in, spending our precious time with Stacy Phillips and Friends. You can watch us on my YouTube channel at Stacy Phillips, or download on wherever you watch your podcasts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Stacy D. Phillips-esque, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Kate, where can they find you?
I'm also on social at Dr. Kayte, Kayte, and the formula is drkates.com, or you can go to siliconesupportformula.com. They both route to the same place.
Very cool.
And I have tiffanygrunwald.com or the same handle on Instagram.
So see you again soon. And remember, love will always be in fashion. And let me add to that, healthy people will always be in fashion. Thank you.